Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name is Annie and I'm recording this from Surrey in the United Kingdom. This is my bi-weekly podcast where I talk about everything that I've been making in the last couple of weeks, whether that's knitting, weaving or sewing. If you are new to my channel, a very warm welcome to you. I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for coming back. And thank you for sticking with me as I learn and grow and improve my podcasts and recordings as I go. Today is the 23rd of January 2021 and in the UK here we're still under COVID lockdown, which is lockdown number 3 for us. So essentially I've had quite a lot of time to do some crafting over the last couple of weeks as I haven't been doing much else outside the home. My Instagram is a little crafting with underscores, so a_little_crafting if you want to find me there, and my Ravelry ID is Ankiwoo. Everything that I will talk about today will be linked in the description box below where I have my full show notes, so you can have a look at what I've been making and using down below in the description. I am linking to Ravelry patterns just because that's where I get them, but I know, just to warn you, if you are having any problems with Ravelry at the moment, bear that in mind and maybe don't click on the links below. I'll see in future if I can find anywhere else with the patterns, but for the moment I am largely using Ravelry for that. So that's where those links will go to. At the moment we are running a knit along in the Ravelry group for A Little Crafting. Again, the links will be below. This is for the Christmas Eve cast on, so if you thought you might give yourself a treat and cast on something nice for Christmas Eve after making lots of gifts, then please do join us in the Ravelry chatter thread, which is in my group, and also put your finished objects in the finished objects thread. We've had quite a few finished objects already. I've excitedly been looking at all of them over time. I have sadly not done very well with my Christmas Eve cast on because I'm not a very monogamous knitter, but you'll see a bit more about that in a moment. For the knit along, there will be a prize at the end of this month that I will be drawing on the 1st of February. So I'll close the finished objects thread at the end of the day on the 31st of January, and the prize is a lovely skein of Christmas yarn from Adventures in Yarn Craft, who is Laura, and I ordered this skein before Christmas, but it was a die to order, so it has only just arrived for me to show you in all its glory, and that is this beautiful skein. So it's got lovely colours there, a lot of red, which I love, some gold, white of course, or creamy colours, and a little pop of green as well, so very Christmassy. I reckon this would make a really lovely pair of Christmas socks for next year. The yarn is, so the name of the yarn is Mistletoe and Holly, and it is merino sock yarn in 85% superwash merino and 50% nylon. So it's very soft, but it still has nylon content, so it's got that durability for socks. And yeah, her label is really lovely. Just a nice stamped ball of yarn for Adventures in Yarn Craft. So yeah, that is in as the prize for the Christmas Eve cast on, and I'll draw that randomly at the end of the month and request the address to send the prize to. So, having talked about all of the admin bits and my introduction, I'm going to go on to actual knitting things. So I'm going to start off with what I am wearing, and that is the Throwback cardigan by Andrea Mowry. This one is knit in West Yorkshire Spinners Croft Shetland Aran and Croft Tweed. So the Shetland Aran colours are, I can't remember them off the top of my head. This one I think is Belmont, but I'll give you the details in the description box. and the green and the kind of burnt orange colour in the yoke are both Shetland Aran colours, and then the kind of greeny speckled one is a speckled Shetland Tweed, Croft Shetland Tweed, with kind of specks of green and blue on a white base. So yeah, I really love the colours of this, and I really love the colour work. My only gripe with it at the moment is the collar, so I'm not entirely sure it suits me very well, maybe because of the shape of my body or something like that. But what I'm going to do is give it a block at some point in the near future, a wash and a block, and see if it comes out better, because I have these still kind of little bits at the top flapping around. I'm also not sure exactly how to lay it over my shoulders, so it seems to kind of roll off a bit. I did mention in a previous episode that I'd like to put some poppers on the button band so that I could do it up, but I tried sewing on a couple and it really just pulled and didn't look quite right. So I'm gonna see. I'm really tempted to undo the button band and make a different collar, something like maybe a shawl collar, but I don't have enough yarn to do that. So I'm gonna have a think, basically. I'll see what happens when I've blocked it, but basically, yeah, it kind of tends to drop down, so I quite like it sitting like this. That's fine if those were flat, and yeah, that looks nice, but then it gradually kind of drops down as I'm wearing it and tends to kind of squeeze up over here and such, and yeah, these stick out. But yeah, maybe it does just need a block. I'll have to see, but yeah. Let's have a think. I also need to have a look at some other Ravelry projects on Ravelry, of course, and see if anyone else has modified the collar in any way, just to see if it works to add some kind of different collar to what it's got on it. I think I probably would have been better off making this sweater version, which is the throw over, but when I bought the pattern, the sweater version hadn't been made yet. So let's see. I do really like a cozy cardigan, and I love the pattern and the design on this one, and the colours as well that I've chosen. So it's just a case of working out what the best way to wear it is for me. Yeah, that, see, again, like if I pull it over my shoulders and kind of pull it like this, it looks nice. But yeah, it did just look really odd with the poppers. I don't think they were quite the right thing to do. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the description box below. I am still wearing it a lot. That's that's true of all of my cardigans and sweaters. But yeah, just thinking about modifying it a little bit to make it more wearable for me. Right, on to actual knitting from this week, or the last 2 weeks anyway. So in terms of finished objects, you'll have seen if you watched my previous podcast that I am embarking on a mission to make 52 hats in 52 weeks, so before the end of the year. And this has been quite successful so far. So the idea is that I am going to use up all of my Aran weight and DK weight scraps so that I can have some hats to either donate directly or sell for a monetary donation to charity. And I've been quite busy doing this, actually. I think it's a good idea for me to get a head start at the moment whilst we're in lockdown and we can't do much, so that later on in the year I can spend time doing other things during the summer and such, when hopefully everything's a bit more normal, and maybe go on holiday. So I'm just going to go through from the first one I've knit to the latest one I've knit. So this one I showed last time, I think. It is a mystery ball of yarn that I think has some sort of mohair content. It's in a lovely colour, and it is the classic ribbed hat by Purl Soho. And it's a really nice ribbed hat, lovely folded brim, So it's quite long when you knit it. It's literally just 1 by 1 rib all the way up until you do the decreases. But it's a really nice, simple, wearable hat that fits everyone, and a really good pattern in lots of sizes. So that one is number 1. Number 2 is the Granby hat by Knox Mountain Knit Co. And this one is knit in Rainbow Heirloom DK in the Koala haircut colourway. And this one is a really interesting pattern because it has, let me show you, all these little knots up a section with slip stitches either side. It does need a block because it's quite, kind of pulls in quite a bit at the moment, and I think that will even everything out nicely. But I'm going to block quite a few of them together, I think, rather than just doing them 1 by 1 at the moment. So yeah, quite a different hat to the original one, but I think it's also quite neutral because it's in grey and it's not a very flowery or kind of girly pattern, I would say. It's quite neutral, so could kind of appeal to both male and female wearers. There we go, so that's number 2. Number 3 is another Knox Mountain Knit Co pattern, and this one is a free one, and that is the Ellis hat. So it's a really simple stockinette hat. I've put a 2 by 2 rib at the bottom, and it's got some nice swirly decreases at the top. And this one is, again, just a really simple hat. It took me a day to knit, or less than a day, but you know, a day of actual knitting. And this one is in Blue Rinse by Stranded Dyeworks, which I've used for a colourwork hat and cowl. I just had a bit left and I thought I'd use it for just a simple hat to highlight the lovely colours. And then finally, same pattern, so this is also the Ellis hat, and I just had a bit of leftover Beehive Yarns in her charity colourway for breast cancer, I think it was, and this is a really lovely yarn. I think I made a set of accessories for my husband's goddaughter, but again I had a bit left over, not enough to make an adult hat, but I made a child size hat. So yeah, same sort of thing, exactly the same pattern as the previous one, but just in a smaller size. The only thing is I ran out of yarn, so I had to rapidly decrease at the top just to finish off. So it has got quite a big hole in the centre there. So what I'll probably do is find a different colour that goes with it and just add a bobble on top. Yeah, this hat's really nice. Again, like, lovely shape. It actually does fit me because I've got quite a small head, but it's a bit tight. So it's definitely child size, I would say. And that is number 4. So as you can tell, I have been quite productive. I've got ahead of myself. I'm due to start my, well, I was due to start my 4th hat today, but as you can see, I finished a 4 and I'm on to number 5. That is going to be the Cobblestones hat by Susie Gourlay, and this is in some more Beehive Yarns. I can't remember the colourway, but it's this one here. So this, again, leftovers from some other projects that I've made, so there's about half a skein of DK left, and lovely oranges and yellows that, to be honest, do not suit me. Yellow just wipes me out completely, so so it's not my colours at all, and I thought I'd make a nice hat and see if someone wants it. That is a free pattern as well, so you can look it up on Ravelry or elsewhere and see if you can make one too. Most of these are free patterns except for the Granby hat. That's the only one that I've used that hasn't been free, and I'll probably use some of the patterns that I've bought in the past as I go. There you go. I haven't started that one, so I can't tell you what millimeter needles I'm going to use. I'm almost done with all my DK yarn actually, so I'm going to have to move on to Aran soon, which means I'll have to find some more Aran patterns. I believe I have more Aran patterns in my Ravelry library than DK ones anyway. Right. So in terms of whips, I've been fairly focused on projects this week. I won't say very specific ones. I'm going to start with the smallest and go on to the biggest. So I mentioned my Christmas Eve cast on. This is in a little sock bag which is split in two for 2 at a time socks by Quince Pie on Etsy, and I'll link to her in the description box below. I love this fabric, it's so bright and cheerful. I am knitting essentially 2 pairs of socks using roughly the same base pattern. So the base pattern I'm using is another Knox Mountain Knit Co pattern, you can tell I'm a fan, and that is the Heart Nut socks. Those are a toe up pair of socks with a lovely cable detail on them that I've knit before. Now, because I don't actually own another toe up sock pattern, what I've been doing is using that as a basis for other patterns that I've been almost developing myself as I've been going. So one of them is just a simple, or to start off with, a simple sock made out of my Silent Night yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners, which was the Christmas colourway this year, or sorry, last year now. And this one, so yeah, West Yorkshire Spinners is the main colourway, and I've also used Lang Yarns Jar Wool Superwash, hopefully you can see that. That is colour number 983, which is the white. And this is a yarn where you get a main ball, which is that, and you also get a separate ball which is a strand of nylon to give extra reinforcement. So I believe this is just 100% wool, and you add a little bit of nylon, which makes it great for toes and heels, so to add in that contrast colour. But I did find last time that I ran out of the nylon in order to do the full bottom of the sock. So I'll end up with more of the wool than the nylon left over. So what I'm doing with this is, yeah, like I said, using the Heart Nut socks as a base pattern. So I've got a really lovely sparkly simple sock at the foot. I'm doing an afterthought heel, so I've got that section set up here so that I can pick up the stitches later and do the white heel. And then what I decided to do, because I'm not very good at knitting just simple stockinette all the way up a sock, is actually do a little bit of slip stitch detail on the top. So I'm literally slipping every other stitch on one row, then knitting the row, then slipping the alternate stitches on the next row, then knitting the next row, to give this lovely design. I think it looks better on the back actually. Showing you there. There you go, you can see it. And I've tried this on and it fits me nicely, so I hope that stays the case and it doesn't stretch too much when I wash it. Yeah, but I just like to add little quirky bits of detail to my socks to make them a bit more interesting to knit, otherwise I get a bit bored with normal stockinette. And I am knitting these on 1.75mm, I know it's like toothpicks, Chalgu lace needles, and this is a fixed circular. I am not sure how long they are. I'm guessing they're probably 80 centimeters because that's the usual size that I would go for socks. And I have to say, having not knit with Chalgu lace needles before, these are absolutely fantastic and make me want to buy more for knitting socks. It's mostly the cable. I find with my higher sharps and my interchangeable set that the cables tend to curl quite a bit. So if I curl them up to put them away, they will stay in a curled position. These ones are super smooth and flexible, so I can do all sorts with them, like roll them up and then they just bounce back. So that is just fantastic, and then I don't have to get annoyed with the cable curling. So I'd be tempted to invest more in the future, but I have invested heavily in higher sharps and the interchangeable set I have at the moment, so only when I need needles will I actually get any more. But yeah, great stuff. Highly recommend them if you're looking for just a simple sock needle. I don't know whether the join to the interchangeable set would be different. There's quite a smooth join as well. You can see there's quite a smooth join to the cable from the needle, which is also really good. So yeah, definitely enjoying knitting those. I did have to restart because I started off and it was too big, as is usually the case when I knit a sock, so I started again, but have made quite good progress. I don't think I will have a pair finished by the end of the month though, unfortunately, so that's a bit of a shame, but it's fine. I'll carry on and have it as relaxing sock knitting for the future. So that's sock number 1, using the heart nut sock pattern as a base. Number 2 is my husband's socks. So this one is again using the heart nut pattern, but instead of doing the cable, what I'm doing is just using the 3x1 rib that is set up as the base of the cable. So this is to give my husband a bit of stretch in the socks. That's because he has quite a high arch, and he probably just needs that extra bit of room to pull it over his foot. Again, afterthought heel, and this one is finished except for the heel placement, so I've got a stretchy cuff in the alternate colour. These are knit in Retrosaria Mondim, and I've got the label here. There you go, that's the one, Mondim. And this is colour 301, I think, which is just this kind of nice blue. And the other colour I am using for the grey is Ficalana Arwetta Classic, and that is this one here, and it's colour 957. So that is sock 1. I have started sock 2 again on my higher sharps there. I made a bit of a mistake the other day, so I have cast these on, the second sock on, but I'll just show you if I can. There, I'm not sure you can see, so it's a bit smaller than the other sock, which means I need to start again, and I'm really silly because for both of these pairs of socks I've used the same pattern and I haven't written down the number of stitches I cast on, so I'm going to have to try and count them. But basically, yeah, I didn't have the energy this week to actually go back and count and work out what I'd been doing, so I left it like this. These ones I am knitting on my 2mm higher sharps. So these were my go-to sock needles before, but as I am such a loose knitter, I had to go down to 1.75 needle size, and higher don't actually produce needles that size, or at least I couldn't find them at the time. So that's why I ended up ordering the Chalgies, and I'm really happy I did actually. This cable is a 24 to 26 inch cable, depending on the needle length that you take. I usually knit my socks with the longer ones. So yeah, that's where I am with that one. I'm probably going to try and restart this sock this evening whilst I'm on my weekly craft call with my friends. So 2 socks in progress, or 2 sets of socks in progress. I don't know why I'm, you know, doing that. I should just knit 1 pair of socks and then knit another pair of socks. Maybe that's why I haven't made so much progress on them both. And my next work in progress is one you'll have seen on the podcast before if you've been watching for a while. And that is my lighter shawl by Simone Kerritt, which is a brioche sectioned shawl with some garter in between. It's 2 colour, and this is what it's looking like now. So there you go. So you've got this first brioche section, and then I'm part way through the second brioche section, which is also the edge. Excuse me, fluff in the nose. So yeah, I'm making good progress on this. As it's a crescent shaped shawl, it's getting quite long. I would say that's the thing that is a bit of an issue at the moment in terms of timing. It currently takes me an hour to knit 2 full rows, so that is effectively 1 row of the brioche. Knit the row in each colour. And the colours I'm using are absolutely lovely. One is, so this one here, which is kind of lovely blues and pinks, is the Sassy Pants colourway in Primrose Yarn Co. Rose Sport, and that's their label. Yarn Co. This is one I bought on a trip to Bath a couple of years ago from a yarn story, which is one of the 2 Bath yarn shops that I went to at the time. And it's a sport weight. The other one is Madeline Tosh Work Sock, which is also a sport weight. And this one is in the Arctic colour, which is this really lovely, deep, vivid blue. And this one I think is actually 150 grams. There's quite a lot of yardage in the ball, and yes, it's listed as heavy fingering to sport weight, 75% merino and 25% nylon. Yeah, so that's the label as well for that one. That was one I ordered from the States a couple of years ago as well, to go with this yarn specifically, the Primrose Yarn Co. Yarn. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment. I've got, I think, about 10 sections, or 10 to 20 rows, depending on what you count as a row in brioche, to go. I figure I will do 1 set of those rows a day, so 1 row in the blue, 1 row in the Sassy Pants colour, and it should therefore be finished in 10 days, right? That's the plan. It is absolutely lovely. I'm so looking forward to having this. I think it's going to be so cozy and wonderful to wear, and also just really vivid, lovely colours. Really brighten my day when I get to wear this, I think. The needle size I am knitting this on is 3.25mm needles. Again, my higher sharp interchangeable set on 22-inch length cable, but I've also attached another one, so I've got a cable extender, which is really great actually, which means that I can attach 2 really long cables together. So I wonder if I can show you actually. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I've attached a 32-inch to a 22-inch. And you can see here I've got the cable connection. I don't know if you can actually see that. But yeah, it's just a cable connector here, and it attaches in between the 2 sides. Really handy to have if you're going to be doing really long projects. I definitely need a couple more for my blanket when I get around to knitting that a bit more again, because that is going to be huge. So there we go. Excited to have that done very soon, in 10 days. So for the next podcast episode it should be finished. I'll be wearing it. And the final project that I've been working on has been quite a significant one, and that is my Boho mosaic cardigan by Aran. This is knit in Heirloom Natura Gilliatt. This is the label, oops, upside down. This is the label for it, which is 100% organic merino from France, and I think the yarn is, the merino itself is from Portugal. And it is a natural organic carded merino, so it is non-superwash and it's got a really lovely feel to it. Because it's still merino, it's still fairly soft when you wash it, and super cozy and warm as it's a natural yarn. I am doing pretty well on this one. So this is, the main body of the colour is in nuit, which is night in French. As the colour work sections at the bottom of the cardigan, I've got this grey, which is Joyland. I think that's how you pronounce it, I should know, I'm half French. And this one, which is Poivre Blanc, which is one of the kind of white mottled colours. Really love the specks of different greys in there. It just makes it just really lovely kind of textured yarn. And to show you where I actually am on this is that I have knit basically the yoke part. It is a top-down raglan construction, so I've knit this top part, and then separated for the sleeves. And then if I can show you properly, then below the sleeve I've got one extra ridged section, so it's really lovely that it's got these gorgeous ridges all the way down. It also makes it a bit more interesting than regular stockinette, and gives you a nice marker to work out where you are on the pattern as well. So I know that I have two more of these ridges to go until I get to the mosaic colourwork section, which is super exciting. It hasn't taken me that long to do this actually so far. It's quite a square construction, and I had a bit of concern last time I recorded about the fact that it felt very stiff, but now that I've got past the sleeves, it's seeming much more kind of light and even in terms of my circular knitting and going round. So yeah, again, next time I might actually have finished the mosaic colour work on the bottom. I think the thing that's going to be the most laborious though is the shawl collar, because it is a huge shawl collar. It is absolutely lovely, and I really want a shawl collar because they're so cozy and just my go-to collar for cardigans. But it's going to take me a fair bit of time, I think, to do that, because it goes all the way around, and this is going to be quite a long cardigan for me, so almost like a dressing gown style. As I think I mentioned before, I'd quite like to make a little belt for it. This one I am knitting on 3.75mm needles, and the Heirloom Natura Gilliatt is an Aran to worsted weight yarn, because it does puff out quite a bit, so you can knit it at a reasonably loose gauge and get a nice even finish on it. It's my favourite yarn for a reason. So absolutely loving doing that. Really excited to get to the colour work, of course, so it's definitely spurring me on at the moment, and I hope to have a lovely colour work section to show you next time I record. I'm very excited to have that done, and lots of progress on that one. I have this in one of my older Clara Rose Crafts bags. This is a Peter Rabbit one that's kind of sweater sized. To be honest, I could do with getting all the fluff off the outside. And that is all my works in progress at the moment. So let's move on to the final section, acquisitions. And I haven't acquired that much over the last couple of weeks, and that is because I am on a bit of a yarn diet. So after sorting out my craft room, I decided I would try and use up a lot of stash this year, and my rule that my husband has given me is to only use up only buy 2/3 of the yarn that I use up. So I'm making a very careful log of how much I'm using. I worked out that I've used 200 grams on the hats so far, and I've used about 150 grams on the cardigan at the moment. I'm not sure whether I'm counting the projects that I've been making last year, so the shawl and the socks, or not, but I might be able to convince him a little bit that if I finish a project I can buy some more yarn. However, the yarn I bought in 2020 does not count. So along with the yarn that I ordered for the prize for the Christmas Eve cast on, I also got a skein for myself and some minis. To show you those. So I got myself, rather than getting more fingering weight, I decided to get myself the same Mistletoe and Holly colour in DK weight, and that's this one, because I'm thinking I can make a really lovely cowl with this, or maybe a hat and a little cowl. And to go with that, because I do like to do some contrasting ribbing, I also got some DK minis, and DK minis are something that I really like having because I really enjoy having a contrast colour on a plain coloured hat, or a plain coloured cowl, and they're surprisingly hard to find, I think, because I guess a lot of people are sock knitters and they use a lot of fingering weight yarn which is suitable for socks and do contrasts in their socks. But I thought I'd get these lovely Christmassy colours in this DK set, dye to order. So yeah, so it's got like this lovely red, this little speckled one, with some reds in, and gold. I think gold will actually be really lovely as a contrast for this hat or cowl, whatever I end up doing. Green, lovely forest green, and a brown there. So yeah, I will definitely make good use of those, just as little pops of extra colour in hats and cowls overall. Okay, and yeah, this is the double knit, is 100% superwash merino. Yeah, so got those in 2020. Don't tell me off, Stuart. That's allowed. And then they all came in this lovely little bag as well, with the Adventures in Yarn Craft logo stamped on the front. So what I'll probably do is send the prize skein in this one, so you've got somewhere to store an extra project. I only discovered Laura from Adventures in Yarn Craft recently. I think it was the Yorkshire Yarn Festival that kind of did some bits online and showcased Laura's lovely Christmas colourway. So I've definitely been browsing her website recently to have a look at her new colours, and she's got a Bridgerton themed collection at the moment, and whilst I have not watched Bridgerton, the yarn looks absolutely lovely and the colours are beautiful. So highly recommend checking her out if you are interested in getting some lovely hand dyed yarn dyed in the UK. She's in Birmingham. And my final acquisition, whilst it is knitting related, it is not yarn. So I got a couple of things to help with knitting over, I think over the Christmas period. And one is a sockers rule. So this is really handy because what I've got is effectively a measure for my socks, and when you're doing them toe up, that will really help me get the size right. So it's got lots of information here. So you've got the measurements, of course, along the ruler, and then in this section here, it tells you the different sizes and how they relate to those measurements. So for example, I know that a women's 39, which is the size, oh no, sorry, 37 I am, which is the size I am in European terms, is 23 centimetres. It also has a set of needle size holes in the bottom there, and a really handy Kitchener stitch explanation. So this is going to be really helpful. One of my craft group friends has one of these and makes a lot of socks, so I thought it would be really handy for me to get one, as I seem to have embarked in sock making more recently. So that is highly recommended. This is, yeah, so made by Fleece Loved Products in the UK, and I bought this and the other items from Jelly Bean Yarns on Etsy, which I'll have a link to in the description box below. So the other things that I bought are, first of all, a little wraps per inch gauge. So this is it. Let's see if I can get on it. And I'm going to stand up because that's going to help me show you. So the way that the different yarn thicknesses are measured usually is by wraps per inch. So you can see on the front here you've got the different types: lace, 4-ply, DK, Aran and chunky, and that gives you a guide to the amount of wraps of the yarn per inch you need to have for that type of weight of yarn. And you can see I've got my inch up here. So effectively what I'll do is, if I don't know the thickness of a yarn, I will wrap the yarn around along here and work out how many wraps along that edge I have to be able to decide which of these it is. So really handy if you have yarn where you actually have no idea what sort of thickness it really is. So quite a simple tool that can be really helpful. And the last one I was quite excited about. This was a sporadic purchase, just because I saw it on the Jelly Beans shop. And this is a little yarn palette. So I feel like I should have added some yarn to this to show it properly, but I'll do that for the next project where I use multiple colours. But basically you have all these little loops down the side, so what's that, 5 different colours that you can use, and then you've got this laminated section in the middle here. So it comes with an erasable pen, and what I will do is write the name of the project at the top, write the different colours of yarn that I'm using down one side, or in the middle, sorry, and then tie little sections of that yarn along the side so that I know firstly what colours I'm using where, so I can number them, because often in multicoloured projects you'll find you need a colour 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a lot of the time I forget which one's which, so that would be really nice to show that element. It's also great for just testing different colours. Cut a little bit of yarn off, put them all together down here and see how they look. And I can do that on both sides. So there's space here for 2 different projects of a maximum of 5 different colours. And I just thought this was a really lovely idea, because whilst you do have a swatch, this is a nice way of showing how the colours play together without actually having to knit anything yet. So yeah, I loved it. I'm going to use that. I'm not sure what my next multicoloured project is though. Let's see. I might have one on the needle soon. Yeah, really pleased with those, and the fact that they're made in, I think, London, means that they're very local, and it's lovely to support local makers, isn't it? So there we go. And that is pretty much it. So please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. I know we're at 94 subscribers at the moment, or the last time I checked this morning. As I mentioned in the last podcast, I will be doing a giveaway when I reach 100 subscribers. So please do subscribe, and I'll show the instructions for how to win something for that giveaway in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a lovely couple of weeks. I will probably be posting another video of something else next weekend, but otherwise the podcast itself will be in 2 weeks' time. Thanks very much for joining me today, and enjoy your crafting. Bye.